Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the PivotBoss pre-market video for Thursday, January 30th, 2025. I am Frank Ochoa, aka PivotBoss. Happy Thursday, everyone. Here's a look at the daily time frame of the ES inside day heading into the RTH Open. Just 40 points of range right now and 49% of ADR following Fed Day. Fed Day yesterday, and the Fed choosing to keep the rates unchanged. And that led to a bit of back and forth price action in the afternoon on Wednesday here. Not a lot of movement and volatility, very unlike what we saw the previous Fed Day, where we had one of the biggest responses ever. This one was much more tame in terms of the response late in the afternoon. And currently we're seeing a relatively tame response here following heading into the RTH Open. Thursday can tend to be a high range day following the Wednesday statement and rate decision, but right now compression here over the last 3 days, especially from Monday's high range day. We are seeing price continue to hold mostly below the Sunday open. So that's the Sunday reopen right there, and we've seen prices keep that area as resistance thus far as prices continue to hold here near the upper end of Monday's range. Again, with such a dynamic sell-off here on Sunday and Monday here, are we going to see additional selling pressure ahead? Do we move back down within the range? The key level to continue to watch overall, it remains that Monday midpoint. To fail through that midpoint would open up movement back through the lower half of Monday's range. To stay above it, and you're still in the upper half of this range. So again, Sunday, that reopen right there, that's going to be a very important level here heading into the end of the week here through that level, and you may be able to fill this gap. And a failure to get beyond that level, and you're kind of turning back down for a big test at the previous session's midpoint from Monday's range. Here's a look at the NQ as GDP numbers have been released. GDP coming in cooler than expected here, quarter over quarter, 2.3% versus a 2.7 forecast and 3.1 previous number. Initial jobless claims coming in at 207K versus a 224K estimate. If you're looking here, you're seeing similar price action to the ES in that the Sunday open right here continues to remain the high of the week. We're seeing mostly inside price action here in the NQ. It did test the edge from Wednesday's range here, back to the mid and just kind of hanging in the upper half of yesterday's range. Narrow range of 48% of ADR developing right now. And again, that midpoint from Monday's session will continue to be a key level there to watch. Not just the rest of the week, but perhaps into next week. If you start to push through that level, it's going to open up the lower half of that range as we continue to remain mostly between 22,100 and 20,700 as of right now. Near the center of that range, 21.4 and chopping around. And really, you need one of these extremes here to be able to fade, and the middle portion of this range could be chop until proven otherwise. Looking at crude oil, crude right now 52% of ADR at the moment. This one, the previous session, pushed through that 73 level we talked about and got a new low. So lower highs, lower lows still intact today. New lows yet again coming super close to the 72s. 72.02. 72.02 is the low of the day right now, and that's something we mentioned as this thing started to elongate last week, was we may need to go and finish out the previous lows here from the beginning of the year. After making that big move up, we have clearly seen an aggressive downward price discovery back down. You may need to go flush out those previous lows here. Didn't quite get all the way through those lows. 71.79 is the low. But we mentioned that 72 might be the retest point, and now 72 being the major pivot of this chart could lead to a little bit of a bounce. Finally, a failure to bounce there, and you're opening up the lower half of that range between 66 and 67. So 72 right now, the key level here to continue to watch here early to see if a strong low develops here at some point over the next day or two in crude oil. Looking at gold, this one's up 1% here today and well through the 2800 level finally. It's been a steady push higher here out of that triangular pattern we've talked about right there. We've seen this thing steadily move up. The previous session, 2 sessions here, we finally got a bounce and a rollover here, gap to the upside, and now pushing well beyond 2800. What we mentioned before is to push through 2800 begins to open up the 3000 level up above. There's a couple of targets here to go get. The 2904 level, that's going to be your 100% target from the key range below, and then 3000 will be a measured target out of that triangular pattern. So we're working for 29 and 3000 now that we're pushing through 2800. This thing continues to maintain a bullish Pima trigger zone here as well, so any pullback could continue to be a buying opportunity until proven otherwise in gold. Looking at the YM, a range of 312 points right now. That's 61% of average. Inside day at the moment. This is a 3-day compression at the highs. Again, this had the opposite kind of extreme effect from the ES and the NQ on Monday, closing higher and just sitting right here below the previous all-time highs, the previous quarter's highs, month's highs, all those highs, and coming just shy of those previous highs and sitting there. One thing I've mentioned before is that when you get a strong pivot like this and pull back this far, when you finally come back to retest that point, it could be a point of rejection. So we could be looking at a rejection here fairly soon of these levels. Do we need to push through first and then rotate back down, or do we start to build a box and rotate? How is this thing going to play out? So again, the best case scenario would be going through the level. Best case scenario for a rejection would be going through the level and rejecting those prices above that zone, and then rotating back toward 43.5 down below. This thing has maintained a very large trading range here over the last several months, with 42,000 being the low edge and 45.2 being the high edge as of right now. 43.5 would be kind of that center line at the moment. All right, looking at Bitcoin, this one's up 0.75% right now. This one continues to maintain acceptance above the 100K level, still trading within a 20,000 point range between that 90,000 and 110,000 zone. It spent a lot of time in the upper half of this range here. So at times, if we're not going to see upward expansion, there could be a push into the lower extreme for a bit before it rotates back up at some point, in order to get a full-on continuation toward the 130K target. We need to get through the top of that 110 resistance level, and that is the top of this key range right here as well. We can start pushing through that. It opens up big time targets at 130 down the road. Looking at ETH, this one up right now 3.6% right now. Really good push. It's outpacing Bitcoin. It's up the most of any of the futures right now. This thing reversing off the 3,000 level here, which it got super close to 3,000 here on Monday. It's held at these lows and now pushing to the upside. Is this bounce just kind of a counter rotation bounce to the current downtrend? This thing's been trending down. Every rally has kind of been sold here. Really need to get back through the 3,400 level with some juice to open up 4,000 again, and maybe even beyond. But right now, very bullish start here for Ethereum here. Can it hang on to these gains, or is this just another bounce within a downtrending market? If this thing starts to give up 3,200 again, we could be looking at another rotation back down in the near term for Ethereum. All right, that is it for now. We'll see how this plays out here heading into the rest of the session. Good luck, trade well, and I'll see you in the trading room. Take care.